Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Himanshu Arora from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to study a module titled Aged in Society, Transitions in Status and Role from the paper Biosocial Gerontology. First of all, let's start with the learning objectives of the module. Through this module, you will be able to learn about aged in the society. You will be able to learn about the theories on changing roles and status. You will learn about the changing roles and status of the elderly. Now, we will give you a glimpse of the topic through a brief introduction. Aging refers to the time progressive decline that occurs in all humans, including weakness, increased susceptibility to disease, loss of mobility and agility, and age related physiological changes. People often relate aging with wear and tear of all bodily functions. Over the year, aging population is seen to have increased drastically. It is known that one of the historic events of the 20th century has been unprecedented aging of the populations around the world in both developing and developed countries as well. As reported by WHO, in less than a century, particularly in the developed nations, there has been an average 30 years increase in life expectancy, where about 20% of that increase was found to be from a base age of 65. In addition to the sharp reduction in maternal, childhood, and infant mortality rates, it has been noted that by the year 2020, one-fourth of the population in many nations will be over 60 years, and by 2050, every fifth person on the planet will be of over 60 years. At the same time, many developing countries are experiencing a significant recession in their birth rates, increasing the percentage of older persons in these countries. Aging is a global phenomenon in the 21st century, the demographic profile of many countries have changed, which led to major shifts, especially in the workforce. The human workforce is hence really important for every country for growth in measuring performance, development, and achievement purposes. With the dawn of modernization and urbanization process, people are living separately with their parents, which places more pressure on the children's ability to take care of family, especially their aged parents. In India, the composition of extended family seems to be declining, and people are moving into cities and living as a nuclear family. Some of the major factors responsible for a growing number of elderly in the population are fewer children. Population around the world have adapted the modern ways of living, which includes lesser children. There have been rapid changes in the number of children being born, with births falling dramatically. In most countries, the family size are getting smaller. Women tend to be older when they have children, and more do not have children at all. Education has a big role to play, where higher levels of education have been associated with fewer children. Living longer. Earlier, the life expectancy of an individual was lower than today, and the gains in the last century have been particularly remarkable. Life expectancy has increased not just in the developed nations but in many other developing and underdeveloped nations too. It has been noted that the largest increases in life expectancy has been realized in the past 100 years, which is associated with factors such as improved living conditions, hygiene, and preventive health care. However, living longer has profound consequences. It affects the population age structure of the society, with relatively more people over 65 than ever before. It also affects the sustainability of social policies, that is, the retirement age was set at mid 60s. Longer life also affects the meaning of old age, such as it means not only enjoying potentially many more healthy years, but also more of becoming very elderly with possible losses in the quality of life. Changing age structure. With the combination of living longer and fewer children, it is transforming population structures. Such structures that even 50 years ago were like pyramids with young age group at the broader base and elderly people at the top. However, with the increase in life expectancy and decreased birth rates, it has become an inverted pyramid structure where the narrow base comprised of younger age groups and broader top with elderly age group. Significant increases in the ratios of the 60 plus age group can be expected compared with the middle 15 to 64 years old, with potentially far reaching consequences on resources available for education. The study of aging is complicated because it is a multidimensional process. Elderly people, even though they are associated with decline in overall health seen from a larger perspectives, they have a positive and substantial role in the society, though their physical capacity and ability might have declined, their minds is usually sturdy. With the years lived, they have accumulated rich and varied experience which provide them insight into persons, groups, and events, and also the perspectives in which they fit in. They also uphold social norms, traditions, and knowledge which are passed down to the next generations. Society has directly or indirectly an obligations towards older persons. In contemporary time, the social structure and functioning have also changed. The social institutions and usages have turned complicated, which may be difficult for the elderly to comprehend and give rise to problems which are mostly to their disadvantage. Since time immemorial, older people have been rendered to be an honor and always play an important part in family and communities in almost all cultures. However, with the impact of modernization and industrialization, the social institutions and roles played by them have changed over the years. Now we will discuss theories on changing role of the family. The changing role of the family have been studied extensively and various theories have been developed. The theories have been developed to explain the changing role of family and to understand how it has changed over time and the influential factors associated with it. Life course paradigm. Micro level demographic data are analyzed in order to trace longitudinal experiences of populations groups, providing a necessary dimensions and integrated framework. This approach helps to evaluate how families are formed and how their interests are met throughout the life of an individual. It also provides a text in studying the occurrences at interconnecting social roots and correlates with roots of developmental data to identify the social change. This approach is useful as the life course approach sheds light into the interactions and intersections between the micro level of individuals and macro level of culture, economy, and social policies. Herivin and Trepanger also suggested that life course approach changes have a significant impact on the internal process of family decision making. Bowen's family system theory. This theory of human behavior regards family as an emotional unit and uses the system to explain the complex interaction in that unit. Bowen, in the year 1966, also suggested that family is a structure of related systems and each action or change affects every other person in the life cycle. This theory is important and useful when analyzing emotional aspects of intergenerational transfers to see whether they maintain vertical anxiety between generations, which is a silent aspect of determining the well being of the aged. Changing roles and status. Every age comes with wisdom and its challenges. One society may treat older people with great reverence, while others sees them as a burden. Like gender stratification, age stratification varies across cultures. Societies over have some method of age stratification that accompanies certain cultural roles and privilege with distinct periods in life. In traditional societies, older people were often accorded with a great deal of respect. Among cultures that include age grades, the elders usually had a major, often the final say over matters of importance to the community. Within families, the authority of both men and women mostly increased with age. The socio-cultural environment is remarkably different from the developed countries. Despite the influence of Western countries, innocent change in traditional values, norms, and practices, the nation have been living coexisting with the change. The elderly people have certain assets with varied and rich experience, which enables them to have an insight in complex life situations. Aged persons used to enjoy a place of importance in the family and society, which is the same for some tribal areas even today. However, in most places, the process of modernization and urbanization have radically altered the situation. The changes in roles and status that the elderly play have been much of interest to researchers and have been studied extensively. Family environment. A consideration of role and status of the older adults has begun with an appraisal of the family environment. The role that they play in the family determines not only their self perceptions but also the relationship within the neighborhood and the community. Various researchers have looked into the interfamily relationship, where the interpersonal relations, particularly those involving the elderly, are generally influenced by the prevailing socio-economic conditions in the society. The structure and function of families in recent decade have undergone noticeable changes. Earlier, the traditional joint family groups provides better care for the elderly where they enjoy full rights and play important part in the family. They spend time with their grandchildren helping them and passing on traditional knowledge, social norms and values. With the advent of modernization and urbanization, the traditional joint family system have broken into small nuclear family where the children move out of the house into cities and towns for better job opportunity and lifestyle. They have led to the negligence of their older parents living behind with little or no financial assistance. The emergence of programs like family welfare planning have emphasized on small family norms which have direct or indirect influence on the emergence of nuclear family. In the present context, educational and economic conditions in the family have directly or indirectly a role to play. When the socio-economic status of the family is not good, the elderly person living along with the family who does not provide any financial assistance are deemed as a burden. They have led to the diminishing roles of the elderly, making them a burden to the family. Housing accommodation. Housing is not only an indicator of the standard of life but also the status of the residents in the neighborhood. With the diminishing mobility and health conditions, with increasing age, the type of accommodation the elderly have become an issue of social concern at some level. The influence of physical environment on social environment is well organized and for the fulfillment of physical needs. Housing is important for the elderly. Indirectly, housing and the type of accommodation the elderly have to themselves also indicated the status they have in their household. The type of accommodation the elderly possesses partially reflects the type of past occupation they had. Therefore, the better the accommodation, the better status they enjoy in the family. But this not true for all societies and family. Their roles in the family are often a result of the investments they put as a family member over years. Even though the elderly have financial security, they still become a victim to neglect and in some worst cases scenario abuse. Position in the family. The relationship in the family is important to the elder people and is influenced by the beliefs prevailing in the society. But at the ground level, it may vary from family to family. Old aged individuals may be more comfortable and may be open to a particular member of the family. Understanding, empathy, and responsiveness may also differ from each members of the family as far as their perception is concerned. To some extent, the views and perceptions are indicators of the relationship in the family and the position of the older person in the family. The position of the elderly in the family would also be reflected by the monetary relationship in the family. In urban settings, aged persons often find themselves isolated and alienated as most of the other family members are bread earners and school going and are engaged in one thing or the other. Due to their physical restraints and inability to work, they become physically and socially dependent in the family, causing them to be a burden rather than a respected position in the family. However, this is not significant for every society, and family as culture also plays a big role in status determination. Status in the family. It has been noted that the social organization of the family is signified by the setup of status and roles of the family members. At some point of time or at present, the elderly might have held certain position or status which may be ascribed or achieved in this materialistic world. The educational level, past or present occupation, assets, etc., play a big role in determining the status of an individual. Study by William in the year 1991 suggested that language and communication skills of elderly person had a direct bearing on their standing in the household. The manner in which they conduct themselves and interact with others in the household emphasizes and redefines their status. The status of elderly determines the form and magnitude of the responsibility and authority they have in the family. They also influence interpersonal relationships as also the functioning of the family. It has also been noted that their status in the family in varying degree establish their status in the community, such that if they enjoy high status in the family, their status in the community would also tend to be high. In most families, the decision making of the elderly tends to diminish as they become more dependent on the family. With the succeeding generations, they no longer remain the sole decision maker. Lusk in the year 1984 also reported a profound erosion in the status of the older people in the family and community. The loss of authority and status of the elderly is a universal phenomenon and depends on the adjustability of the elderly. We will summarize what we have done till now. Older people contribute to society in many ways, whether it be within their family, to their local community, to society, or as a whole. However, the extent of these human and social resources and the opportunities available will greatly be dependent on one key characteristic, which is health. When people are experiencing extra year in their good health, their ability to do things they value will have fewer limits. However, if these added years are dominated by decline in physical and mental capacities, the implications for older people and for society may be much more negative. Financial security is really important for aged society, and there is a need for elderly to have proper financial planning for sustaining their quality of life after retirement. Thus, by having financial security somehow can assist those elderly to keep secured after retired. In fact, the changing roles and status of the elderly are directly or indirectly dependent on the financial status and securing. It would be significant for a well retired life. With the advent of industrialization and modernization, the roles played by the elderly have changed. In India, this change can also be seen in almost all societies. With the breaking up of joint family system and people moving into cities and towns as a nuclear family has made a great impact on the roles played by the elderly in the family. Thank you.